Hey everyone, Dr. Frunky here with a brand new knife consult for you on a knife that I've been excited about for a long time. And that's because of this awesome clip. If you know what you're looking at already, you know that this is a Ramon Chaves knife. Ramon Chaves has been making the Redencion folders with this wicked clip for the last couple of years, and ever since it came out, I have really wanted to get my hands on one to see what it was all about. I think my first experience must have been in Jim Skelton's video where he said that this knife was going to change the market. Well, I'm not sure if it did, but it is a special thing, and after getting one in hand, I totally understand what he's talking about. So let's go ahead and talk about this knife. This is the Redencion 228 Midtech. From Chaves American Made Knives. So that's a little bit confusing. Let's talk about the lineage of Redencions that are out there. So there's the full custom original Redencion that's a 3.6 inch blade. There's a smaller custom version called the 228, the Redencion 228, that's a 3.3 inch blade. Both of those come with CPM 3V blades. And then there is a Midtech version produced by Chaves American Made Knives in S35VN, and it's a model of the 228, the smaller version. And that's what this knife is. So those knives start at about $500 base price, and they're a plain stonewash finish. And then you can have them modified as this one has been. This one was actually sent to me by one of my viewers, Sam. Thank you so much for sending this along. He's been super excited about this knife for a while, and so have I. And when he showed it to me, I said, "That's amazing, man." He offered to send it to me for review, so thank you so much. I appreciate that very much, and I'm so glad to have this in hand. So he purchased this one actually from a guy named the Recalcitrant American. He's on a lot of different knife communities. He's certainly on Instagram. And he is a known knife modifier, and he is a knife service guy. So he's actually trusted by a few companies, including Chaves American Made, as sort of their certified service guy for these high-end knives. And so not only can he modify these knives, but he can modify these knives and keep your warranty in place. So a neat thing to check out from him. I like that a whole lot. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and break this knife down a little bit and see what we're looking at. Up front, there's about a 3.3 inch blade, but it's only got about 3¼ inches of cutting length. Overall is 8 inches with that skull crusher spike on there. It's about 8.25 inches. The handle is right at about 4.6 inches. With the crusher, you're close to 5 inches on there. I'll bring out another couple of knives for a comparison right now. Here's a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So this knife in overall dimensions, especially with this spike on the back, is relatively similar to the overall length on a Paramilitary 2. Here is a Mannix 2, another very common knife. How about a couple of smaller knives here? Here's a 0450 from Zero Tolerance. And here is a Zero Tolerance 0808, a few knives that I think some people have some comfort with right there. So, very big and beefy knife, and the dimensions are mostly impressive in the girth. As we all know, this is the most important of all the dimensions, and so here you can see it's 0.6 inches on the handle thickness, and then the blade thickness, as well as the titanium scale thickness, comes in at 0.186 inches. So he actually advertises this on the website like everything is 0.187. I wonder if he's done that on purpose. It seems rather intentional to have 0.187 as your blade thickness, and that sort of lends to the overall sort of atmosphere about this knife, with the skull and the sort of tactical and aggressive nature looking the appearance of this knife right here. So the blade is done in a flat grind with a nice top swedge. Again, this is S35VN steel. It's got some nice jimping up top. This jimping actually was a big surprise. It looks like it's going to hurt a whole lot on the hand, but each one of those teeth are actually well rounded, so your thumb gets excellent purchase, but it's not uncomfortable, and I imagine that would work well with or without gloves. That's incredibly cool to me. I really appreciate that. There is a little area of choil right here. While it works well for sharpening, you're going to have to be careful about using it as a finger choil. You can certainly sneak up on the blade and then sneak up on the jimping and kind of do some finer work, but you'll just have to be careful. It's not a full finger choil, so be aware of that. I really love the simplicity of the blade. It's such a nice shape for regular use. The thickness is going to prevent this from being an ideal EDC knife. It's not going to slice through things quite as well as a thinner Spyderco or something, but I'm sure that if you're buying this, you already know that. This will probably do like breaking down cardboard and boxes and cutting up carpet and stuff pretty well, but you may not want to use it for food prep or finer tasks. The thumb stud is the method of deployment here, and there are a number of ways to open this knife. The detent is so perfect that you can do it either as a finger flick or as a thumb flick or as just a regular old school opening like that. So I really like that. The action is ideal on this. I absolutely adore it. The pivot is ball bearings, and it's got this nice big pivot screw. I really enjoy that. Something that's interesting about the action lockup and deployment on this, if you look inside, you'll notice that there are two stop pins. There's a stop pin here for when the blade is open, and then there's a stop pin inside for when the blade is closed. That's a bit of a unique approach. I don't know that I've seen that very many times. You know, a lot of makers will just have a single stop pin on the knife. I'll bring out my 0392 and show you that. So in the closed position, the stop pin is right there, and in the open position, the stop pin is right there. So very interesting design on this knife. I can't see that that's a big problem. It's just one more piece you have to be aware of if and when you take the knife apart, but I don't see why that's a huge problem. It probably allows him to have this nicer form and still have very good function going on. So moving back to the handles, this is the part of the knife that I think is the most interesting, really, besides the clip, obviously. But the handles seem like they just have infinite potential for modification. And as you can see, people are doing that. So this has a really nice blue anodization on it. Sam's favorite color is blue. He gives me a hard time for liking green so much. But it looks great on this knife. This sort of midnight blue with the black finish looks really wicked, and I like that a whole lot. Certainly you can get into some milling. They have released some versions in the past with some speed holes in them and things like that, but I imagine if you got really creative, these thick slabs of titanium would do well with some milling or some freehand kind of work, and I know there are a few guys out there that might do those mods. So let's talk about the clip, the coolest part of this knife to me. This clip is so wicked. Actually seeing it in real life, you know, it functions pretty well. There's not a whole lot of flex to it, but it sits off of the, it actually sits a hair off of the titanium frame. I don't know if you can see my finger on the other side there, yeah. Because it doesn't have a whole lot of flex, you can actually hear it tapping against the body there. But they've done that on purpose so that it slides in and out of the pocket more easily, and it does work pretty well. I think that it holds the knife well. It's a bit on the long side, and every single time you've got it in your pocket, you're telling the entire world that there's a murder stick basically ready to come out. Especially with this piece. This is the Skull Crusher, kind of pain maker. I don't even know what you want to call this thing. I think they call it the Skull Crusher. It's got an awesome satin job on it. I think that Recalcitrant did that, so that's really neat. Alongside the black finish to match the blade. That's very neat to me. But that is just an angry, angry thing. And to be honest, when you put this in the pocket and you're kind of going for the knife, you have to be extra careful not to touch that or you're going to draw blood. That thing is so sharp. I would have preferred maybe a slightly duller one. This one is really sharpened quite nicely on there. But it looks wicked and it's super, super cool. So how does this thing function in everyday use? Well, the blade is a bit thick, like I mentioned, so it cuts things like cardboard very well, but doesn't slice all that well. The clip is extremely obvious, and people are going to know that it's right there. And let's talk about the most difficult thing here. It weighs 7.8 ounces, so it is a real porker. I am not going to be able to carry this in my scrub pants. This is really just for your jeans or your 511 pants. And, you know, in that way, it makes perfect sense. I would think that this is meant for people who need super hard-duty uses or even tactical uses, and in that regard, it's perfect. I love the action. This thing is beautifully built, and this is a knife guy's sort of fantasy in terms of the overbuilt, super badass blade. I absolutely adore the clip, and I think that Ramon has got a good thing going in these Redencion folders. I may end up picking one of these up just for fun one of these days, so stay tuned. Thanks to Sam for sending this one along. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel here, and as always, guys, this is Dr. Frunky saying, Take care.